Recording in progress.
नमस्सर्वेभ्यः कक्ष्यायां स्वागतं प्रार्थनया प्रारम्भं करोमि गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा हरिः ओं तत्सत्. In the last class we saw this how our knowledge of the relationships within a sentence, how the centralized role of a verb plays a critical plays as a critical aid in understanding the sentence, and how the grammar is structured around that. And in order to practically learn how this is applicable for something that is more realistic, we have picked up a verse from Raghuvamsham of Kalidasa, where we are doing that analysis, and we did that in the latter part of last class. So what we do is the shloka itself will be slightly rearranged by the Kavi for bringing color as well as for bringing vritti rules in play. Basically the rules of Guru Lagu at play in his shloka to fit the particular meter that he has chosen. So we will have to try and think through it a little bit. Though in Samskritam there is no such definite order required, except where there are some pairings, Visheshana Visheshya pairings, and also Shashti Vibhakti placements, etc. needs to be critically followed. But few other things can move around, and using that flexibility, Kavis repurpose that ability to fit the meter, and sometimes also to bring some color into the verse. Okay, so tasmin kshane palayatuh prajanam utpashyatah simha nipatamugram avangmukasyopari pushpavrishtihi papata vidyadara hasta mukta. In that moment of the protector of the people looking up to the strike of the lion, which is going to be intense, and the one who was bowed down, so on top of him the rain of flowers fell, which was released by the demigods Vidyadhara's hands. Okay, so you can see, actually, if you once you fall into the technology of the Samskrita Vibhakti etc. and understanding, and once you have read through the verse couple of times without what you call overanalyzing it, just read through it by doing the sandhi breaks etc., you really the anvaya unraveling, the DNA reordering that we need to do for the strand happens within the brain, and we can straight away go left to right and do some kind of a Butler translation into whichever other language you need to convey it. Though our brain doesn't require any particular real language, it understands it as meanings inside. Okay, most likely the mother tongue comes into play. So this whole thing that unraveled, we explained through a flow chart of how we in our Paddhati we do a question answer session to extract the relationships. So we place the Kriyapada in the beginning, so papata, and that's a Kriyapada, it fell, like that. Okay, and this is a past tense form, lit lakara. So papata, what fell is the question that comes to us. Okay, so pushpavrishtihi papata, so that becomes the subject of the falling. So the shower of flowers fell. Okay, so we list that up. Then we look, okay, there are some descriptions in Prathama, so maybe what type of pushpavrishti, what type of rain of flowers. So next question, Vidyadhara hasta mukta, this is a Bahuvrihi samasa, where the pushpavrishti that was released by the hands of Vidyadhara demigods. Okay, so that becomes a Visheshanam to Pushpavrishti. Then next question is, it fell, but where did it fall? Kutra papata. Okay, so upari papata. So the answer that comes is, on top it fell. So the question, obviously inherent question is kasya upari, but that would in context here the straight quote of it fell on the head of Dilipa is not mentioned, so we do the adhyaharana here we imagine the first responder to the kasya upari is Dilipasya, but in brackets because Kavi has not directly described him by name. But by context we know it is Dilipa, because everything is about Dilipa and Kumbhodara that is happening so far between the Simha and the Dilipa. So we extract it in, not explicitly shown here, but here firstly I would put in brackets Kutra Papata, I would put Kasya Upari, first answer I would put as Dilipasya in bracket, then Punaha Kasya Upari or Kidrishasya Dilipasya, maybe then we should change to Visheshana type. Okay, so that's what I did. So I did Palayituhu Upari, but I have kept to the Kasya because that's how it is questioned here. We can even look at it as Visheshana of Dilipasya. Okay, Palayituhu. So this Visheshana of Palayituhu, which is a Shashti Vibhakti placement for the possession case, is question that comes is protector of what, taking care of what is the next question. So that's what has been explained by Kavi also. Prajanam is sitting waiting to attach to Palayituhu. So Kasam Palayituhu, Praja Shabda being Strilinga, Kasam Palayituhu, Prajanam Palayituhu. So that goes behind Palayituhu. It doesn't directly come to Dilipa. So Prajanam Palayituhu Dilipasya Upari, Dilipasya being Adhyaharana, not explicitly present in the shloka. Okay, so that's how the stack grows. So next, again we see further, for example, Avang Mukasya is there. So that's also Shashti Vibhakti. So we must ask, so Punaha Kasya to extract that Avang Mukasya, and that goes on to Dilipa again. Okay, Avang Mukasya Dilipasya Upari. So one whose face was bowed down in anticipation of what is the next question, right? So that's what Punaha Kidrishasya. This Avang Mukhata is due to what reason is extracted by a Visheshana of what type of Avang Mukasya? Utpashyataha, the one who was looking forward to, not in the sense of looking forward as if that's a great thing that will emerge, but one who was expecting, that sense. Okay, so Utpashyataha. So this is called Shatranta. From the same Drish Dhatu, this has been generated with the Ut Upasarga. So this is personified now in a present continuous mode. In fact, we call it as current continuous mode rather than present, because everything is in the past according to the Kavi statement. So Utpashyataha, one who was expecting. Okay, so of the one who was expecting. Of is due to the Shashti. Okay, so this becomes a Visheshanam to the Avang Mukasya, which is Visheshyam. Avang Mukasya is a Visheshanam to Dilipasya, which is the Vishesyam. Dilipasya is imagined, and he comes into the equation as the Shashti possessor of the Upari Shabda, which is an Avyaya, but here in the sense it's a locative Avyaya. That's why I have put Adhikaranam. Okay, because that's where the Pushpa Vrishti falls. So we come slow forward to Utpashyataha. Now further we see Simhanipatam Ugram, which is basically karma. So there is a karma, Simhanipatam, the object which is the strike of the lion, and which is also further colored with intense word. So the intense strike of the lion as a object. So where would it go? Obviously it will go with this Utpashyataha, because what he is expecting, the strike of the lion, because that's what we have seen earlier. He had told the lion, accept my body in the lieu of the cows. Okay, so we have to ask Kam Utpashyataha, the question, karma question comes. Kam Utpatyasha, looking forward to what? Simhanipatam, karma pada, Visheshyam. Okay, then that also is a Visheshyam, because there is a further qualifier Ugram associated in the Dvitiya Vibhakti again with Simhanipatam. So Kidrisham Simhanipatam, what type of strike of the lion? Ugram. So we grow like that. What else is left in the whole verse? Kshane is left, Tasmin is left. So we bring that, and that is basically temporal reference. So it's an Adhikarana, but time Adhikarana. Okay, Samayadhikarana, not Deshadhikarana. So Kada is the question, not Kutra. Kutra has already happened with Upari. So the temporal is Kada and the spatial is Kutra. Okay, so Kshane, at a moment. Okay, and it is a Kala Adhikarana in Saptami. Okay, that itself has a Visheshana, Tasmin as a Sarvanama in that moment. So that comes as Kidrishe Kshane question, because this Kidrisha Shabda is to extract all the Visheshanas. Everywhere it has gone into the correct Linga, etc. Kidrishi, okay, Kidrisham, Kidrishasya, somewhere it may not have been there, Kasya is there, Kidrishasya, see here, Kidrishasya, and here Kidrishe. So it is declining in all its corresponding vibhaktis as Visheshana questioning word. Okay, so Kidrishe Kshane, Tasmin Kshane, in that moment. Tasmin here is a Sangati word, which we are going to learn how that is used. So Kavi is saying, he is linking this verse to the previous episodic descriptions. In that moment, the moment when Dilipa bowed down his head after telling Kumbhodara, please take my body. Okay, so this is how we understand it analytically using this kind of flow charts, or what you can call relationship chart. I call it Vakya Chakra in Sanskrit, though it starts looking more like a chain than a wheel, but you can see the Papata is the central figure around which all these bubbles are organized. Okay. Tasmin kshane palayutuh prajanam utpashyatah simha nipatamugram avangmukasyopari pushpavrishtihi papata vidyadhara hasta mukta. So what we see, the qualities of the Kavis is they try to describe an entire sentence in one Visheshana. So for example, this how would break into a simple sentence: Tasmin kshane vidyadharaha swahastebhyah pushpan vrishti rupena muktaha, like that. Okay, so they mochitavantaha, something like that. So whole sentence is hidden in Vidyadhara hasta mukta pushpavrishti as a simple Visheshana to the rain. Okay, all right, same technique everywhere. Lot of samastas which are bahuvrihi samastas and other types of samastas, they play the role of painting an entire picture in a very compact way. Okay, are there any remnant question with respect to this Anvaya Rachana Krama? What kind of questioning emerged those words and how we organize this flow chart? Are there any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, I am okay.
Okay, thank you. So next we will step into a new subject matter that is in front of us as we move forward. So far our focus initially has been on the basic grammar at the sentence level, where at the word level first and then sentence level. At a 10,000 feet level we have understood that. So before I go into very detailed grammar aspects of good, what is a good word, what is a bad word, how to construct good words, etc., and such things which are deep end of the grammar, I still want to remain at the 10,000 feet level and switch subjects to in the architecture of the language to another aspect which is kind of not so much addressed by the grammarians at a primary level. Very surprising. This is found more at the research level, people doing lot of work here, but actually it is very important for primary level people to understand that how beautifully in Samskrita it has been made into a Shastra. Shastra being extremely technically accurate science of authoring. Okay, all right. So very long ago our language experts and kavis, they thought through all this and came with all these technologies elements. Okay, and they gave specific names to it, and specific authorships were there describing and attributing these qualities as to be present in authorships. Okay, otherwise it will become irrelevant document. So they gave a framework, you can say, for how to write your grantha, kavya, whatever. Okay, so at a very high level, these two words I have used here, is a collection of more than that, but Sangati and Tantra Yukti are the two words. Sangati means, Sang means together and Gati means going. So going together, it's literally its meaning is telling us a lot of things. How sentences should flow from one to the next with some kind of common goal. They shouldn't be all over the place. Rama went to the forest, Bharata went to Nantigrama. This kind of irrelevant ordering. Of course, those two are a little bit relevant. Ravana in Lanka sat on the seat. I mean, it's irrelevant to put that next to this, right? Because there is no sangati. There is no congruent movement of the flow of our brain's thought. We are largely, when we read something, we are single threaded. So because our mind is single threaded on the particular thing, at least consciously we are single threaded. You guys will disagree otherwise. So I am saying consciously we are single threaded. Okay, so this sangati is helping the reader to maintain his congruency in one matter. Okay, so that's why they have identified how to hew this in, how to sew these aspects into the fabric of language. Okay, the next is Tantra Yukti. Tantra Yukti is basically talking about how certain phrasings, stylized phrasings of the language can be used to establish what is going to be set next. Like how to, for example, very basically the language already gives us mechanisms for making a statement versus asking a question. Okay, so you can call that very early. If we were so primitive that there was no language around, and if you and I were the smart people trying to think through what is needed to talk, immediately, slowly, when our brain thinks on this, I think we need a way to distinguish between what is a statement and what is a question. So, and we invent this question words. So these kind of things. So at a very primitive level, that is the Tantra Yukti there, questioning words versus statement like phrasings. At a slightly higher level, it may be rhetorical beginnings like isn't it so, and further this kind of phraseologies we use to create a flavor of the sentence that follows. Okay, so such things at a very light level that I have described is called Tantra Yukti. When you start actually reading the list, an enumerated list of the Tantra Yuktis they thought through, okay, you will be surprised how much they were elaborate and technical about this. Okay, relationships between sentences in a group, Vakya Sangatihi. So within a group, in the sense of a paragraph, as what we call a paragraph today, okay, that is called Vakya Sangati. Then relationships between chapters is Sarga Sangatihi. Okay, Adhyaya Sangati. Sarga Sangati is more popularly, so Sarga Sangatihi. So they thought through all this. They said, okay, verse to verse in a kavya or sentence to sentence in a gadya, there has to be a flow methodology. That's where, for example, when we saw Kalidasa using those Sangati terms like Tasmin, Kshane, these kind of things. Okay, if that were absent, you will see actually you can write the verses with them being removed. So you may say, but mundane, why is he wasting letters on at that moment? Isn't my brain smart enough? But he gives that because somewhere he will switch context. When he is switching context, he doesn't use those phraseologies. So now we know he has switched context because Sangati is absent. So a new context is being talked about. Okay, or some other type of Sangati will be there to talk about the other context. No. Okay, tada ayodhyayam, something like that he will begin. So at that time in Ayodhya, so now he is painting. Okay, at the same time, so far what he has described is what is happening in forest with Rama. At the same time, what is switching the scene to Ayodhya. So he does the switch Sangati. Okay, so these kind of things. So you may think it is very obvious, but you will see if you read bad books, you will find that it is not obvious. Why books are good, why some books are bad. It's because of non-application of all this knowledge. Okay, somebody who is writing is not, in his brain he has formed the connection, but how does he know he has conveyed it to the reader? He is simply unable. So many times in a simple conversation, we go on saying something and the other person is looking at us with a blank mind because we have not set the context at all. Then when we set the context, they say, "Arey, you should have told that in the beginning. I was thinking of something else." Like that will happen, no? To avoid that. Okay. So relationship between chapters, Sarga Sangatihi. Then structure of a book. They talked a lot about this. How the Grantha, of course, book for them was a Grantha. Okay, Grantha means that which is bound together. Okay, Grathanam means collecting things and binding them together. Okay, the word Grantha is derived from that Grathanam. So it is literally saying things that are bound together. So grante kramaha, so the order in a grantha, sangatayah, tantra yuktayah cha. So they have talked about all these aspects, how the kavi should put some details first before going into aspects, further details, etc., and how he should break it into adhyayas, upadhyayas, sargas, many names, lot of colorful different differentiator names they have given. Okay, direct, indirect and suggestive meaning, this is another brilliant thing. Okay, I have not seen this so explicitly scientifically analyzed and talked about. That's maybe because I have not stepped into the English literature world, but in the Sanskrit literature there is very clear talk of a given verse or a collection of verses for a context having a literal or direct meaning, having an indirect meaning, and having sometimes a potential suggested meanings, and sometimes all three. Okay, so Vachya, Lakshya, Vyangyartaha. They called this with very precise technical terms. Vachyartaha, Lakshyartaha, Vyangyartaha. Vyangya in Kannada it means derisive. That is the wrong meaning to take in Samskritam. Okay, it has definitely come from the same Vyangya Shabda of Samskritam, but here in Kannada Rudi Bala of Vyangya means somebody is talking derisively in a Kakesnook style about somebody, that kind of thing. That is not Vyangya. That is one aspect of Vyangya. That is one aspect of Vyangya, no doubt, but that is not the whole. Vyangya means simply Ingita Shabda is more familiar to us in other bhashas. Ingita means the intended meaning, like that. Okay, deep intended meaning. So that is that Vishishtataya Ingitam Vyangyam, like that. Vyangyartaha. Okay, Vachya, Lakshya, Vyangyartaha. So these are the, of course I am going to go into detail, to some more detail than what I am just spending time with this single opening slide, but these are the things we are going to talk about. We are stepping away from mundane verb, noun, vibhakti, etc., and going a little higher. Okay, so let us look at Sangati first. Okay, connections in paragraphs and beyond. Okay, first we will go with what is a paragraph? Collection of sentences, right? So some kind of adhikarana is a paragraph in Sanskritam. So okay, so even in a very mundane series of sentences you will see there are a lot of techniques of so-called adhyaharana. So Sanskrit grammarians very early identified that it is wasteful for the language to be dumb, in the sense of going like this: Rama goes to the forest, Rama in the forest sees a lion, Rama with a bow kills that lion. Like this kind of thing is very childish. We do use that in nursery level books. Okay, because a child is not so well formed in the brain to infer a lot of things. So we make it completely doubtless for the child by repeating every noun term that may be related to that verb. So first is goes verb, all the aspects of going, where he goes, who goes, everything. Next verse is sees a lion. So all aspects, who sees, how many lions, and where. Sometimes everything is again re-represented. Again third one, again who kills, with what he kills, and what object he kills. By now the third line is very obvious what he does, right? But not to a child. Okay, so that's why when we write a book at a very low level, we don't put too much of inferencing in the brain of the child. Okay, if we put too much inferencing at that level, they stop losing it because they can't form the connections. For them, they would have pretty much forgotten what was said earlier. Pretty much, I'll tell you, at a very young age. Of course, slowly they will develop that. Forgotten in the sense the context is a little out, because their mind wanders little quickly. They are so attentive to other things, it wanders little quickly. So they are not at ekagra. So that's why we cannot do this adhyaharana business for them. But for an adult, it is murderous to not do adhyaharana, not assume adhyaharana power. What is adhyaharana? Ability to infer the context. Okay, where we don't need to explicitly represent things, where it can be very obviously inferred, we let it be inferred. Okay, that is the important thing, Sangati Kathana. That means don't overdo this repeating. Just let it be inferred when it is too obvious, because it will tire the reader to have dumb things being put to his face. Okay, so how we approach it for a child, how we approach it for a mid-aged kid, how we approach it for a full adult, we have to keep that in mind based on who is the target audience. Okay, all right, that's also talked of later. Okay, adhikari is the word they use for target audience. Okay, so adhyaharana. So Ramaha vanam gacchati. Next, tatra saha vyagram ekam pashyati. Ekam is also a little bit childish. Vyagram is ekavachana, all adults knows, no need to put ekam. Sometimes for a child book we do put it ekam vyagram pashyati, because we are also trying to teach these nouns to them. Okay, tam banena hanti. So by the time we get tam banena hanti, the very young child gets confused by this. Okay, so he may need Ramah tam vyagram banena hanti, like that. Okay, so but
excuse me, here vyagram ekam means one lion is right.
Yes.
So instead of that, we can say Vagrena.
Vyagram only. Vyagram is in ekavachana, so ekam is not needed.
If there are more than one tiger,
then we would have put Vyagran.
Vakran.
Okay,
thank you.
That's why, because the language has built-in vachana tagging. This ekam is a little redundant, but here it has been brought to highlight that a little bit, you can say, or to a child to further accent it. Okay, or sometimes Kavi throws the ekam for vritti purpose. Okay, all right. So what has all happened here? So just focus on the blue words. Ramaha vanam gacchati. So full complete statement. Of course, there is no aspect of from where he left and what time he went. Those are all not focus points. So it's live there. Then tatra saha vyagram ekam pashyati. Actually, even this saha is a little overloaded. This place. Actually, tatra saha can be cancelled. Vyagram pashyati is enough. Right? C is a lion. So we can imagine, yes, Rama, when he went to the forest, in the forest he saw a tiger. I said lion here and there, don't worry. So tiger. Okay, so maybe little bit further you can use some sarvanamas for little color. Tatra saha vyagram pashyati. So over there he, so now we immediately know who saha refers to, what tatra refers to. We don't need to explain, that's why we use these sarvanamas there. So in the forest, tatra means in the forest. Okay, it's an avyaya shabda. So in the forest, saha is a sarvanama tad shabda, so that is saha Ramaha. So visheshana to Rama, but is a sarvanama pointer to Ramaha. So Ramaha is in pratama, saha is in pratama, it's easy to connect. But vanam is in dvitiya there, vanam gacchati, and tatra is in saptami bhava there, because it's a in the place of a vane. So sometimes inferencing crosses this vibhakti boundaries. This is what was in a different vibhakti earlier, takes a different vibhakti. What was a particular vibhakti earlier takes a different vibhakti in the new sentence, depending on the needs of the new sentence. So the participant need not sit in the same adhikarana, or what we call vibhakti adhikarana. Okay, so 2 to 7 switch. Okay, but 1 to 1 no switch, 2 to 2 no switch. Vyagram pashyati tam banena hanti. Tam points to the vyagram now. Tam could have been easily Ramam banena hanti, but we don't take this because subject of the previous sentence was saha. So subject of this sentence defaults to potentially in our mind to Ramaha. So Ramaha comes again as a adhyaharana. So tam comes as vyagram again, and then banena hanti is new information. Okay, am I making sense with this description of what is adhyaharana?
Yes.
Adhi a harana. Three things are there. Adhi means below, under the rule, that kind of sense. A means completely or bringing forward sense. Harana means to steal. Okay, see the word. So under control, completely stealing something. So what is the stolen thing? What is there previously? Okay. How the words, that's another matter altogether. how they give birth to these words with upasargas and, sorry, let me mute someone, some sound is coming through. So how they, that's another science itself, that itself is a research paper, how they use this atomic technique of dhatu and pratyayas and then upasargas and then derived nouns and then gave rudibala to them, saying okay, literally what it means, under control, completely stealing, but what the together means in Rudi is to assume. See, when we assume something, there is a sense of harana, there is a sense of stealing something. Of course, we are not stealing an object, we are stealing a word from previous context. Okay, very nice word. When we analyze the how the Rudibalas have come into picture, itself is a wonder of this language. So Ramaha vanam gachati tatra saha vyagramekam pashyati tam banena hanti. Even more it could be simplified. Ramaha vanam gachati vyagram pashyati banena hanti. Enough. Or Ramaha vanam gatva vyagram drishtva banena hanti. One single big circle can be made instead of splitting also. So that's how complexity starts increasing. Okay, that and when you make it a compound language, sentence, right? Like that, you avoid wastage. Yeah, sir, what is the question?
No, that is also a speaking language, right? Vyavaharika. What you said, the last one.
Everything Rama, is Vyavaharika only. Everything is, nothing is here. I mean, this is everything is Vyavaharika. But what I think that is more adult level constructs, where we don't break unnecessarily into snippets of sentences.
Yeah.
Because we want, within the sentence, mechanisms are more powerful to bring the common context of the sequence of events. Right? Right.
That's paraphrasing.
Yeah, correct.
No, what is the meaning of putting a line after Ramaha vanam gachati? Then we put a line. That means what? To give a pause, or what is?
That is a sentence. That is a sentence. This is not a line. This is a full stop of Samskritam.
Oh.
Okay. That is not a line. It is a full stop of Samskritam. Samskritam has two types of full stops: a single bar and a double bar. Okay, a single bar is used in Gadya after every sentence. Okay, and a single bar is used after the first half of in every verse. Okay, and a double bar is used at the end of every verse. Double bar has no use in Gadya.
Okay, but when you say if it is a full stop here, then but we read continuously, right?
No. There is you for you who are not yet familiar with the pauses we are giving, it sounds. Even in Kannada, when somebody is an expert Kannada speaker, it only takes an expert listener to know what is where a sentence ended, where the next sentence began. Okay. So here gachati is the kriya pada for this sentence. There is a concept in Samskritam called ekating vakyam. A thing makes a sentence, like that. And thing is a tinganta, which is this gachati is a tinganta. Okay. Gam dhatu with latlakara pratama purusha ekavachana tip pratyaya. Okay. So this is a tinganta. Okay. And that moment there is a tinganta there, we have to close a vakya around it. So it cannot transgress it into other things. So Varama and Vana participate as nouns around Gachati. Okay, so it finishes. That circle is finished. That sentence circle is finished. Next, there is a new sentence circle here, and the Tinganta for that is Pashyati. Somebody sees. Okay, and the nouns gather around that Kriyapada. Another circle. But these two circles are geared together because there is a kind of this happens, then that happens relationship between them. Okay, all right. Then tam banena hanti. Hanti is the kriya pada. So another sentence, another small wheel. So this one follows this one. Okay, so prapratamam gachati, tadanantaram prashyati, tadanantaram hanti. What we immediately know, Rama is a common karta. So Ramaha gachati, Ramaha pashyati, Ramaha hanti. Okay, 3 sentences. That's why 3 bars. I hope you got it.
Yes, clear. Thank you.
Annara over here, you have a question? You are unmuted.
No, sir. Actually, this is the when we are analyzing machine level, in the discourse level, the term is referring to Vyagramu.
Correct, correct,
That
correct.
that also that's a mark is going on in the paragraph when the pronouns come. Then it is referring to what
Correct.
proper name. That
Correct.
is anaphora,
See, because
anaphora resolution.
Rama is also Pullinga and Vyagra is also Pullinga. So,
Yeah.
Tam could be about Rama or Vyagra because they are the two potential candidates for Tam. But
Yes, yes.
by context, we have to know. See, sometimes this is where intelligence comes in. See, Bana means a arrow. So, once an arrow is involved in an instrument, we rule out that Vyagra can be the guy who did the Hanana. So that is the intelligence. So it must be Rama who killed the Vyagra as an object, which is the inferencing, with a Bana.
Yes.
Okay. So the knowledge of the other nouns is also helping us to determine who is Tam.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Some work is going on to anaphora resolution. The pronoun is referring to what, which proper noun in the.
correct. Yeah, of course, in this simple, silly sequence, it is, but this is where we begin to start learning how things happen. Later, we need to extend that learning into very complex sentences also.
Yes.
Yeah. See, lot of, for example, if you see Amba Kulkarni Varia's work and some work that is happening in other places like IIT, Kharagpur, IIT, Kanpur, etc. They are trying to do some of these things. Of course, I'm sure CDAC has done a lot of work and is continuing to do.
Yeah.
You guys have beautiful transliteration tools, translation tools, etc. So, I am not aware directly. Now I am becoming aware somewhat through you, sir. So, but if I had no knowledge of how others are going about it and I have to do, first I have to learn how a normal grammarian sees these things and explains it. Then I have to apply my mind to it. But Indo-European languages are common in this trait. So what you learn from English you can apply to Samskritam. What you can learn from Samskritam, you can apply to English somewhat. Samskritam, it's easier because of this Prakriti Pratyaya yoga.
Yes.
Yeah. Simply complication is increased in English because what is one word in Samskritam is a phrase in English. So you are fighting at that level itself first. Which to belongs to what, the belongs to what. I mean, it's thankfully English is not flexible, so you have to follow the order also. So some context helps of proximity help can be taken. Samskritam, you lose the proximity when you analyze verses.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So my aim is as one human being teaching other human beings how I see it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next is this Sangati business. So Sangati, see, whereas within a sequence of sentences we are seeing some simple rules of how we infer, okay, and where at a very low level inferencing is avoided to help a child, whereas at a higher level it is needed, and at even higher level we avoid splitting sentences. When the context is congruent, we go with a complex sentence, right? Which we have seen very early. I have taught you how with the kridantas like gatva, drishtva, hanti. Ramaha vanam gatva, vyagram drishtva, banena tam hanti. Like that. Okay. Sangati is the next thing. So this one, the closest I can translate in English, because this is a very technical Samskrita word. Sangati in a literal sense, out of context, simply means an incident, okay, or going together literally, okay. And in the Rudi Bala, say a sangatiyalli, ee sangatiyalli, like in Kannada we see in that context, in this context, it is nothing about that. This is actually in Samskritam, in this particular Shastra, at the Bhasha Stapatya level, it means semantic discourse linkage. So these things mean a lot, right? Technically, semantic discourse linkage. How we link the aspects of the discourse, which is like some subject matter that is being talked about, in a semantic way. Okay, in a not with syntactic terms, within a mechanism of semantics, we use this. Okay, so semantics being application of a few syntactic words in a particular order to mean something more than just the literal meaning of those words. Okay, that is semantics, you guys know very well. Okay, ka nama sangatihi. Okay, adhikaranayoho artashaha yauktика sambandha. That's what a semantic discourse linkage. Adhikaranayoho artashaha yauktика sambandha. Adhikarana is a kind of a context, one congruent thing. For example, context of Rama going to the forest. Rama Vanagamana Adhikaranam, you can say. Okay, Prasanga Adhikaranam, some words like that you can use. Okay, so that's Adhikarana. So between two Adhikarana, so this is Shashti Dvivachana, of two Adhikaranas, Adhikaranayoho or Bhagayoho in Samanya Samskrita, Artashaha, meaningfully, with meaning. Okay, Yauktika Sambandha, appropriate. Yauktika means that which is appropriate. Okay, Yukti means technique, and Yauktika in the sense of properly applied techniques are with the appropriate Sambandha. So, how to create proper relationship between a given context and the next context. Okay, so adhikaranayoh artashaha yauktika sambandha eva sangatihi. So semantics discourse linkage is the technique of linking two contexts in a technically accurate manner, something like that. Okay, so alright, see, what I want to point out here is, it's not I have pulled out some of these phrases out of thin air. Okay, adhikaranayoh artashaha yauktika sambandha will be there in Shastra Granthas that talk of this matter in this kind of. So Lakshana Kathana is a very early technology they used. So for everything they made a Shastra and a Lakshana Kathana. Nyaya Shastra, what is what are the rules, what this term means, what that term means, and in the whole Shastra they will stick to that now. It becomes a Sanya. So Pramana becomes a Sanya. Prameya becomes a Sanya. After that you don't again need to ask again what is Prameya. You have learned that well in the beginning, then you know what is Pramana, what is Prameya, etc. etc. Okay, so that technological terms are being established like this. So Sangati is a technological term, and simply it means sambandha between two adhikaranas with a proper technique and meaningfully, like that. Okay, so now this will become more clear. You may ask where he has moved from Rama Vanam Gacchati to here. You will see this. Okay, Vaividyata Sangatihi. Okay, actually Vaividyata is not a Sangati. The variety of this, I should have changed the color there. So Prasanga Sangatihi, everywhere I have put a hyphen, it means read Sangatihi next to it. Prasanga Sangatihi, episodic linkage. Avasara Sangatihi, appropriate or context necessary linkage. Upodghata Sangatihi, opening linkage. Hetuta Sangatihi, causal linkage. Karyaikya Sangatihi, work unifying linkage. Akshepa Sangatihi, opposing linkage. What does it mean by opposing linkage? Linkage where an opposition is brought into focus to understand what is the opposition to what is going to be outlaid. How brilliant. Akshepa Sangatihi, Pratyudaharana Sangatihi, contra example. Okay, Drishtanta Sangatihi, similar example. See, contra example, similar example. If you see how Bhashya for sutras of Panini are given, you will see all this. When Panini gives a rule, the Bhashyakaras give why Panini said this, what is the case in which his rule is not applicable, what is the case in which his rule is applicable, both are discussed by the Bhashyakaras. What a beautiful thing. So Pratyudaharana Sangatihi, Drishtanta Sangatihi. Then Nirvahakaikya Sangatihi, unified conduct. Okay, even I am not good enough to completely describe what they mean by this. Once we go into the depth at probably PhD and master's levels of Samskrita, they do go into these kinds of things and study in depth, then only it's possible to understand that. Okay, so just to read again: prasanga sangatihi, avasara sangatihi, upodghata sangatihi, hetuta sangatihi, karyaikya sangatihi, akshepa sangatihi, pratyudaharana sangatihi, drishtanta sangatihi, nirvahakaikya sangatihi. So in works, for example, especially when somebody has to propose something new, defend it in his arguments, he has to use all this. So he has to show all this, and there are techniques where we know, oh, he started discussing akshepa sangati, here he has started discussing pratyudaharana, kimuna, something like something like it will be like that, kimuna, and then he will go kimuna means why not. Okay, why he put why not? So he is talking a contra example like that. Okay, or he yatha, when he uses drishtanta example is coming forward like that. Okay, so these kind of techniques they use. Those techniques are
Nirvahaka can be managed also, no?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially for overall management. Unified conduct feels like overall management. Yeah. Some introductory paragraphs may need that. But there is something called upodghata, opening arguments. So that's satsangati. Yeah, interesting. So how you can picturize this potentially? So grantharambha, beginning of the grantha. So there is a sangati right at the beginning to be applied there. Granthanam, Vangmayam. So that's all comes under upodghata sangati, and so they will talk of what all has to be described there. Then we have technology of breaking things into sargas, okay, so that we don't go on and on in one big bundle and make it a puliogre. So small packets, okay, so 50, 100 shlokas in one group, okay, so sarga. So between that sarga and the next sarga, sangati katana. Sometimes the tail of a sarga will talk of what follows next, and the head of the sarga will talk of how it follows from the previous, etc. So these sentences are found between verses sometimes. Sometimes commentators put it because it's not obvious to the simple readers. So the commentators pick up Kalidasa's works and put those. For example, if you take Bhagavad Gita, okay, even simple aid like Bhagavanu vacha, Yudhishthiro vacha, Arjuno vacha, none of those are there in original Vyasa's work. Okay, those are all Sangati Katanas added by good experts who can understand this is there. Potentially it may have been there in original Vyasa, but nobody is going to memorize them. Nobody, when you memorize Bhagavad Gita, very rarely nowadays we are memorizing like that, nobody will break in between saying Bhagavan Uvacha and then go into the next verse. Nobody says Bhagavan Uvacha in a proper recitation. But for them it is very obvious, because the paragraph itself, what follows, it's clear it is Krishna's words. But it may not be clear to first time readers. So the Sangati Kathana explicitly is done by Vyakhyakas. Okay. So it not always means the original author does all this. By the end, by the time we are replete with Vyakhyas and Tippanis and Tikas and all that around that Grantha, with all of them together we get the benefit of all of these being explicitly accessible to us, knowledge. Okay. So basically this is basically between the this thing sargas. Then within a sarga also there can be one prasakti and another prasakti. So that's what they call avasara sangati, something like that. Okay. So because there was a need in between, you can call it as some kind of subchapter that was not explicitly done, but a sangati katana was done to explain that, like that. Okay. All right, any questions? Okay. Looks like it's a little overload, but it's okay. So next is
an example he gives for Sangati, now you have explained it.
Yeah, we will see later if it doesn't come out. I mean, right now we are having a 10,000 feet thing. So I am not going about doing that. But just orally I have explained. For example, even in Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavan Uvacha itself is a Sangati Vakya.
Yeah, you told that.
Yeah. So like that. That was an example. Or for example, Grantharambe, if you take any normal Panchatantra, the first verse, first few verses is actually everything is about Sangati Katana. If you take Amarakosha, the first 6 verses are all technical verses. First one is a kind of secular prayer, and then the next 3-4 are telling what I am doing, how I am doing, what is my technique, and how you should use these keywords to mean what, understand what, everything. Amarakosha, in just 6 verses he gives the technological framework needed for understanding his further verses. After that he goes into giving simply paryaya shabdas in verses. Okay.
So for example, they will do Ganapati Stuti before starting something that will not come under Sangati, right?
No, that's not a grantha. See, that the what you are telling is a karyakrama, a normal program that you do on stage. There also you need the same techniques, Bhagini, right? You may not have been authoring the whole thing as a book, but you are authoring the whole thing as a video show, right? So there is Sangati there also. Same things are applied there also. That's why you don't begin randomly. You have a Sutradhara, then he will invite somebody to do the Mangala Vachana, then he will invite guests to the stage. So that there is a framework, right?
Yes.
That framework was not absent. It is not something we are borrowed from the West. It is there in our Shastras also. Even if you see how a marriage event takes place, okay, how the Vadyar conducts the marriage, he has his own Paddhati, and that Paddhati is actually full of these Sangatis. Okay? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Purpose and category in a write-up. Lekhe Anubandhaha. Okay. So this one comes in the beginning actually of the kind of part of that Sangati, but it's an underlying aspect. So very deeply our ancients talked of 4 bindings, 4 mentions and bindings. Anubandha means actually bindings. 4 bindings that are critical in any writing. Okay. See how what I appreciate about our ancient is they thought that such things are needed. Whether they were completely comprehensive in analyzing it or they were overdosing themselves with analyzing it, that is secondary almost. Critiquing it is secondary. Appreciating that thought process like this, saying there should be these bindings in a grantha, I find it very, these are all very ancient writings of Samskritam. Okay. Anubandha Chatushtayam. Okay, so they talk of 4 bindings and they gave a technical name Anubandha Chatushtayam for them. Okay, Grantharambe, Samanya, at the beginning of the Grantha they talk of this, the 4 mentions at the start of a write-up. Okay, Vishayaha. Okay, so this one is Pratipadyamanaha Charchyamanaha Vishayaha. Subject, what is addressed. So that which is going to be presented, Pratipadyamanaha is that which is going to be presented. Charchyamanaha means that which is going to be discussed and argued, the subject. Okay, so they identified, very important, that the book should not be totally goalless. It should not be my essays on yesterday's happenings like that. Some people write it, that's a different thing. It should be about how to write a book. Suppose you are writing a book about how to write a book. Don't go into rhetorics of how you are a great person. Don't make it a Trump speech. That's what. Okay. So like that. So if you notice this thing, what makes a good speech? Staying on the subject. So that's what. Vishayaha. Pratipadyamanaha charchyamanaha vishayaha. Okay. I would not say what Trump does is all meaningless. He has his own style of doing things. I think he is a master in a different way. Okay, so let me, before you think otherwise, I have a lot of respect for what he achieves also. Okay, you may argue whether you are in favor or not in favor of what he is doing, but he is a master in getting it done. That you cannot argue. Okay, first he will take the chati. Show the chati to everyone. Okay, Vishayaha. Pratipadyamanaha charchyamanaha vishayaha. Subject, what is addressed. Then is adhikari. They start the second binding for any write-up is who is the qualified person to even touch this book. Not in any sense of untouchability. I am just using the English phrase. Even to touch this book means one who is qualified to take up this book for reading. Okay, very importantly discuss. केन पठितुं शक्यते पठनात् पूर्वं किं किं ज्ञातानि भूयेरन् patitृणा. Okay, so by whom this book can be accessed and understood. Before taking this book up, what else he should have known well. Okay, right. Somebody who has to take up Panini's Ashtadhyayi, okay, it is nothing about you are not this, so you can't touch it. No, it is like, do you even can you even open read one verse in it and say I have understood some 50% of it, is the question. Okay, what is all preparatory things are needed before you need to be able to access Panini's Shastra, this kind of questions. Okay, so kena patitum shakyate patanat purvam kim kim jnatani bhuyeran, something similar to bhaveyuhu, something like that. Okay, vidhiling karmani patitೃಣಾ, qualifications. Okay, next is prayojanam. What is the use of this book? So it's very clearly they say the book may have a subject matter that it is addressing, may have defined who is the qualified person, etc. But after accessing the book by a fellow who is qualified, at the end, did he benefit? Did he benefit? Did he learn something new? Did he learn something remarkable that was not apparent to him so far by his own inferencing or by other readings? So that's that. That means it has to have some newness in it, some utility which is beyond what is there in others. So prayojanam grantadhyayanena prapyamanaha labha, benefit. What are the fruits of knowledge gained from this book? Okay, sometimes the kavis used to be little vague in stating it, saying moksha itself is the prayojana, like that. Actually at a high level, yes, but Vyakyakaras sometimes give better explanation of what is the utility because they have understood it better. The kavis tend to not go on and on about it. Okay.
So
Next,
labha is not equivalent to prayojanam, no?
Benefit, prayojana, benefit.
Benefit.
Yeah,
Labha
is
profit,
benefit.
right?
Prayojana is also benefit.
Hmm.
Use, benefit.
Labha is the profit, no? Generally used.
Don't think of monetary.
Uh-huh.
Okay, benefit is not monetary, no, can be monetary. So fruit, we simply labha, we mean phala. Phala. Prayojana is phala, utility. Okay, sambandha. So this is this one. Another important thing is the above three should have a relationship between each other. You cannot have a definition of adhikari which is irrelevant for the subject. You cannot have a fruit that is irrelevant for the subject that is going to be read and irrelevant for the adhikari himself. If you are saying a sannyasi should take up reading this book and the prayojana from this book is moksha, he is already on the way. So he doesn't need this book to attain anything new. So there has to be some congruent links between them. So that's they call sambandha. Okay, so vishaya prayojanayoho madhye vishayadhikarinoho madhye va sambandhaha bodhya bodhaka bhavaha ityadeha relations they talk about. Okay, so they thought about these things, saying, a granthakara should keep these aspects in mind throughout his authorship, that he is staying on the subject, he is not exceeding the brief, like he set out to write a nursery book and started writing things that are irrelevant and even illegal to belong in a nursery rhyme book, which is happening today, right? Irrelevant, illegal stuff is being put in there because of this wokeness. It's come into India also. So that's what they try to say, stay on the trail, stay on the rails, like that. Okay, keep utility in mind, don't go about ranting on something, keep utility in mind. Every sarga something should have been achieved, like that. Okay, and sambandha, keep the relationship between them, means they should all go congruently. Okay, some utility which is of no use for the adhikari should not be there. Okay.
Sir, adhikari means the person who is reading should have that basic qualification of
adhikari means
right.
One who has the a qualified reader. Who is the qualified reader for this book?
Yes, sir. Sir, in PhD thesis of Sanskrit, like they follow this Anubandha Chatushtay.
Very good. Very good.
And if you compare this with our IEEE paper, then it is writing style. It should be it is very good if you use this.
Yeah, you know, there is a lot of good things we have to learn from the Western techniques, especially the scientific literature, scientific techniques. But what we have to understand is that it was not absent in our Shastra Parampara. That's
Yes.
it. It may not have been, I mean, every time requires a new Avishkara, so they have done that. But these guys were advanced for their times.
Yeah.
That much we have to say.
Yes.
Okay, I think where are we on time? Okay, 11 o'clock. So let us take a very short water break and continue for another.
Sir, shall we continue and then finish by 11:15, sir? Otherwise,
We'll take it 2-3 minutes water break. People
fine,
still
sir.
need a break after an hour, Bagini.
Sure,
Nature
sure.
calls. Thank you.
Definitely, sir.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Okay, so welcome back. So we saw Vishayah Adhikari Prayojanam Sambandha Paraspara Sambandha Tayoho Paraspara Sambandha Sambandha has the 4 Anubandhas. So we can picturize it like this: Vishaya, Prayojana, Adhikari, and the Sambandha triad, between the triad. So Bhoktru Bhoga Sambandha. So Bhoktru is Adhikari, Bhoga is the Prayojana. What is this Bhoktru Bhoga means? Consumer and the consumed item. Okay. Then Mumukshu Moksha Sambandha. He is in the path of liberation, and Moksha is the Prayojana. So that relationship. For example, between Prayojana and Vishaya, Ayurveda Swasthya Sambandha. Vishaya is Ayurveda, Prayojana is Swasthya. Okay. And then Niti Nayakatva Sambandha, Niti Bodha. Okay. Nayakatva means the ability to lead us in a correct path. Okay. Niti word comes from that which takes it in the right path. Okay. Dharma Punyarjana Sambandha. So this is a Dharma Grantha, and the Prayojana is Punyarjana, Punya Papa, all those things. Okay. Or Vishaya and Adhikari, Dhanurvidya Kshatriya. What happens if I take up Dhanurvidya? Waste, because I don't have the mental preparedness to become a fighter. So Kshatriya, he has it in his blood. So if he takes up Dhanurvidya, it's a meaningful thing to do. Okay. Similarly, Yagavidhi Yajamana. I mean, who has to learn Yagavidhis? Not some fellow who is selling Kalepuri in the street. So a proper Yajamana who has the wherewithal and the monetary ability to conduct a expensive yaga, he needs to learn all that. Okay. Natya Shastra Nata. So these kind of things. Okay. Just out of curiosity, sometimes irrelevant people take up irrelevant books to read because they have time on their hands, but it is of no utility to the society. So that's what. They were making sure that the Shastras were written for specific people who were qualified and would make full use of the knowledge of that Shastra and focus on those things. So that's why very specialized Shastras emerged, 64 Kalas, so that, and categorizing people, so that very highly specialized, high qualified people were available for every category. If you wanted to get a pot done, you would get the best pot done, because there was a Shastra of pottery which belonged to that community. Okay. Okay. Then next is basically at a very high level Tantra Yukti. Okay. Granteshu Tantra Yukti. So technical, what you can call as Yukti, schema, something like that. Okay. Technical schemas, you can call it. I don't know how to use the English words there. So Yukti Shabda is known to most of us Indians. It is a mechanism of achieving something, and Tantra is technical. So technically having a mechanism of achieving something. So Tantra Yukti. So they talked a lot about this, and unbelievable amount of Lakshana Kathana is there for this. Okay. Tantra Yukti शास्त्रग्रन्थस्य संरचने उपयुक्ता कला एव युक्तिः. शास्त्रग्रन्थस्य of a technically detailed authorship book, samrachane, in the matter of creating, upayukta, that which is used, kala, the art form, is called yukti. Okay, so the shastra itself may be an art form, but the authoring of a grantha on that shastra is a different art form. Okay, that requires its own yuktis. A wonderful Bharatanatyam dancer will be unable to teach sometimes another student, but there are simpler, not so great Bharatanatyam dancers who are extremely great masters. We see this in the world, right? Of course, rarely you find them in combo also. Okay, so that's what the teaching technique, what we say, is similar to that writing techniques. Okay, so not only he has to have deep shastra knowledge of that subject he is talking about, he should also have other techniques. Okay, which what they have done is, many of these are, as long as you explain to them, these are all needed, they will be able to work in that bound. So the entire need for this Tantra Yukti Shastra is to tell these things are there, please address them in your writing, like that. Okay, bahavaha yuktayah santi yatha. Can you believe? Okay, Kautilya. So the Kautilya's Arthashastra itself, you may think, because we are so dumb nowadays, we think, oh, Kautilya's Arthashastra, something he wrote, nobody cares. He talks of this 32 Tantra Yuktis. Okay, Adhikaranam, Vidhanam, Yogaha, Padarthaha, Hetvartaha, Uddeshaha, Nirdeshaha, Upadeshaha. Okay, Apadeshaha, be very careful in reading. Upadeshaha, Apadeshaha, Atideshaha, Pradeshaha, Upamanam, Arthapattihi, Samshayaha, Prasangaha, Viparyayaha, Vakyasheshaha, Anumatam, Vyakhyanam, Nirvachanam, Nidarshanam, Upavargaha, Swasanya, Purvapakshaha, Uttarapakshaha, Ekantaha, Anagatavekshanam, Atikrantavekshanam, Niyogaha, Vikalpaha, Samuchchayaha, Uhyam. So sometimes you will see these terms overlap a little bit with a few things we have talked about, with Sangati, with Adhyaharana, etc. So this, but this is talking about the yuktis in a overall world, without going, even Sangati may use some of these yuktis, so they may see some overlap in terminologies there. Nothing, no problem in learning something twice. So using these portals, I am not a well-read person in this Tantra Yukti. There are several Sanskrit scholars, young scholars of Sanskrit, who are gaining good knowledge in all this. If you guys want to have a good talk on this, there is one expert in Chennai, who is the husband of the wonderful grammarian scholar Soumya Krishnapura, whose name I brought earlier, part of Vyoma Samstha. So Bhagini's Soumya Krishnapura's husband, I forget his first name, he is actually a Tantra Yukti expert. He has done PhD on this. He's a Sanskrit scholar, of course, but he is equally capable of outlaying it in English. So he is a kind of a scholar who can be invited to give a lecture on this topic. He will have definitely lighten it up to make it more meaningful, you guys, etc. Of course, I don't know, he must be a busy person, but anyway, I am telling. So that person will be able to explain this completely with knowledge. Me, not being an insider, can only give a very topical view of this from my own learnings. Okay, as part of my MA also I studied a little bit, but for example, dharmawiki.org has some details on it, okay, and some articles are there, so some aid is there which I have put the links for, rather than spending my incapable mind in explaining those. I have just put it, but this much I have brought into picture. Okay, Adhikaranam, topic layout. Okay, Vidhanam, arrangement of topics. Yogaha, employment of sentences. Padartha, meaning of the word, thinking deeply about that. Hetvartha, causal reason statement. Hetu means cause. Uddeshaha, introduction, mention. Nirdeshaha, detailed statement or explanation. Upadeshaha, directive versus advice. Apadeshaha, quoting references for providing reasons. Atideshaha, application extending to a different context. Pradeshaha, indication of space obtained meaningfully. Upamanam, simile, analogy. Arthapattihi, implied meaning. Samshayaha, doubt. Prasangaha, context or situation. Viparyayaha, contrariety. Okay. Vakyasheshaha, sentence completion. Anumatam, agreement or acceptance of view of others. Vyakhyanam, explanation, emphasis. Nirvachanam, etymology, terms and derivation. Nidarshanam, illustration. Apavargaha, exception. Swasanya, technical term, sign of itself. Okay, we have to go into full analysis of what he means by that. Purva Pakshaha, opposing or prima facie view. Uttara Pakshaha, refutation with own correct view. Ekantaha, invariable rule. Anagatavekshanam, reference to a future statement. Atikrantavekshanam, reference to a past statement. Niyogaha, restriction rule, saying I am stating this with these bindings, don't apply it freely willy-nilly. Okay. Vikalpaha, optional rule. Okay, that means you can go that way or this way, both are acceptable. Panini uses all these things. Samuchayaha, grouping or combo. Uhyam, reader's inferences understood. Many vyakyanas that don't want to waste their breath just because they want to give vyakyana, they want to be compact. For some Panini Sutra, they say Uhyam, that's all they say. Okay, this is very easy. I mean, don't ask my help for explaining this Sutra by Panini. So their Vyakhana for that will be Uhyam, that's it. Okay, very powerful, guys. So these kind of, were we even aware they went this deep? No. Okay, so they went very deep. And this is Kautilya, our Arthashastra author, Chanakya.
So Kautilya has given all this, huh?
Yeah. What he doesn't touch. Actually, for centuries his works was lost. Nobody knew. And then luckily in the Mysore Empire, the Pandits who had maintained it so that the king of Mysore would have this knowledge, and also the Sanskrit group over there which maintained this, he found the thing Tadapatras from, I think, from the archives of Mysore, etc. Maybe in the Oriental Library sources, whatever is there today as Oriental Library over there. And he carefully, using his own knowledge of Samskritam and with other, I'm sure a whole editorial committee of Pandits assigned by the king, reintroduced Kautilya's Arthashastra to the world in early 1910, 1920, that era. I forget his name, great guy. He brought back Arthashastra to the Indian world. It had been pillaged and lost everywhere else. Can you imagine China losing the works of Sun Tzu or whatever, people like that?
Yeah.
Such sadness.
This is 375 BC work.
Roughly, yeah, we guess.
Kautilya is born in
some of those things we
375
guess by references to Gupta era, etc. Yes.
So long.
Giants, intellectual giants. Panini, Kautilya, Vyasa, intellectual giants. Valmiki. Okay. So with that we will conclude today's class. So we will probably read this once more to, not that I can't do much more than read what is there on the slide there, because I am not a subject matter expert, but I can bring reference to an expert. So if there is a specific interest in this, maybe some YouTube videos can be pulled up, but that will be in Samskritam, so you guys will be struggling with that. So maybe the same expert can render it in English for you guys, if he will let you know whether he is able to do that in English or he would not be able to, because he is a pure Sanskrit scholar. Okay, all right. So with that we will call it today. Thank you very much. We will meet up whenever is the next opportunity, potentially next week. See you all
Next week.
Namaste.
Recording stopped.